about it. Did Luka deserve it? And we're gonna flip it, and we're gonna start it with you, Dave.
uh,
Good question.
was he the best player in the NBA last year? Statistically, you would have to say yes. But I'm not going to agree and say that he was the best player in the NBA last year. I don't think he was the best player in the NBA last year. I think the best player in the NBA last year was in the MVP race and actually finished second. And I think it was SGA. I think SGA was the best player last year. If you look at what he was able to do on both sides of the floor, he was tied for the league in steals with De'Aaron Fox. You know, that's not something that's easy to do to be able to get to be number one in steals in the NBA. So he was tied with that. He was one of the best defenders on a really good defensive team. And as young as this team is, they were the number one seed in the West. Now, if you want to make that case for Luka, you got to look at where they were before. They were a team fighting for the play-in, and they actually got all the way to the fifth seed and made it to the NBA Finals, which is great. And they beat OKC on that way. So I can see why they would do that, but for me, it's hard to give someone. It's just hard to give someone who was. You know, for me, I just feel like SGA had a better year. Just from what he was able to do and where no one thought that he would be. And I mean, you could say the same thing for the Dallas Mavericks as well. No one thought that they would make it to the NBA Finals because of what happened last year. They tanked, didn't make it to the playoffs this year. They pretty much felt like they wasn't going to do it again, but then they went and made two really good key trades, getting PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, and that helped their defense out. Lively started playing a lot more, and they got to the NBA Finals. So I can see where that happens. But, I mean, for me, it's SGA. But I'm not mad that they gave it to Luka. He's definitely one of the people that deserve to be in there. So
it's about to be good. Go
I
ahead,
just
Joe.
say SGA.
Although SGA, I'm gonna hit you with the chorus.
Wrong answer.
I gotta make that a sound bite. But I gotta disagree with you, Dave. Now, although SGA was my MVP, but MVP is never based on the best player because team success is involved in an MVP. And what did I say, y'all, when I did my top 5 MVPs? Luka was third. And I said, if Luka was a top seed, he's going to win MVP because he got everything else. He just don't have the seeding. Luka Doncic, we're not talking about, who got the best team or the best individual player last season. It was Luka Doncic. I got to be real. In the regular season, Luka was the best player. Let's talk about numbers real quick. Luka, first off, had a 70-point game. We forget about that. 70-point game. And I'm not mistaken, I think he almost had a triple-double. I think he had a triple-double. I think he had a triple-double in that 70-point game. Somebody fact check me on that one real quick. Luka averaged, he had 9 rebounds and 9 assists. And he also averaged 33.9 points. That's the most points per game by anybody who averaged 9 rebounds, 9 assists. So he broke history right there. We rolled into the playoffs. What did he do? He beat the Clippers, who were somewhat, I guess you can say, were better than them talent-wise, but Kawhi in their place. Let's scratch it off. He beat the number 1 seed, the guy you said is the best player, SGA.
He had a double-double. He had a double-double, not a triple-double.
Yeah, 70 what?
He was 73 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists.
Ooh, dang. But yeah, he went against SGA and OKC and beat SGA and OKC. He went against Anthony Edwards, who somebody, like my man Mark, put in the comment section who was the best player. He outplayed him, maybe him. And we saw what he did in our last game. Woo! Game 4 went crazy. And hit a game winner, by the way. And lastly, Dave, in the playoffs, right? Let's go back to numbers. In the playoffs, Luka Doncic.
I know he was first in almost every category.
The first player in NBA history, even LeBron didn't do this, dang, to lead the playoffs in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. So what you said about SGA, what he did on both sides of the ball, because he never guarded the best player. He did get a bunch of steals, though, but he never guarded the best player. Luka did that in the playoffs. Who was SGA in the playoffs when it came to the steals? SGA, my guy, though. I ain't trying to take a side share, SGA. I'm just for the sake of this argument. And lastly, in the NBA Finals against the Celtics, Luka Doncic led the finals in points, rebounds, steals, averaged 2.6 steals a game in the finals. Wow. SGA only averaged 2 steals a game in the regular season. And then he was second in assists. The youngest player in NBA history to average 25, 5, and 2 in the finals. He was the best player last year. Shout out to Luka.
I was off mute and put the mute on just to go off mute. I don't know what's going on. I feel like Jason Kidd in the finals is trying to figure out what my lineup is. Was it well deserved? Man. Is this a fan award? Like, do the fans get to vote for this? Or is this like a players? Like, who voted for this actual award? Because again, I don't
know. I don't know who goes into the ESPY's voting, honestly.
It's probably a committee.
That makes sense. Because again, I'm gonna try to look up the nominees again, but again, like I said, Jason Tatum was up there. I think SGA was up there. If Ant was up there, it was a tough category to win, but they definitely had to go into analytics and everything that Joe said will give you your answer. Like Luka was flat out the best player in the NBA. You also got to think about it exactly what you said, Dave. Him coming off of the season where they weren't even supposed to be technically, people were like, maybe they get into the playoffs and then they lose again or they tank out. We don't know. Team had to make another few trades to actually add to it, but one consistent factor was there. You got the nominees.
It was Luka, Jason Tatum, SGA, and Jokic.
Jokic. If Jokic would have went to that second round
to the finals,
that second round was bad for him.
Yeah, and again for these awards, it say best player in the NBA. See, it's kind of good that the ESPYs are after the season because now they can go in totality, unlike the MVP where they give it to you in the middle of the playoffs and you can have a bad playoff series, but yet win the regular season MVP and then going back, we'll be on a debate show. So you got 9 MVPs and 1 Super Bowl. We'll talk about that later. but just a little teaser. But I agree. Like, again, the one single factor that was there outside of Kyrie with the Mavericks was Luka. And if Kyrie was missing games, Luka was there. He also made a great run throughout the playoffs. So, again, even Tatum kind of fell off. Some people say scoring-wise, he was making the plays. But outside of, but Luka did get strapped up. So, it's a lot of people can go in there. They can be like, well, why wasn't Jaylen Brown in there? But I'm going to go like this. Luka was the best player last year. I like what SGA did. SGA makes it past the Mavericks. I think he wins that award.
Real quick, Mark said Anthony Edwards, right? If it's a regular season award, he's not even in this conversation for real.
Yeah.
Because he turned up in the playoffs.
Yeah, add not in the conversation when it comes to regular season. Sorry.
Don't get me wrong. They were the number 2 seed, I think. Number 2 seed, and
he wasn't
24 points a game though.
Yeah, it wasn't nothing outstanding.
He turned up at the right time.
Yeah, in the playoffs, he went crazy.
We saw games where he went crazy, but it wasn't consistent throughout the year.
Shout out to Indiana. Got that game-winning block. Anthony Edwards.
Well, I mean, see the chemistry, Joe. I remember what y'all was talking about the chemistry. Chemistry is there because Indiana did what to this team? But he just got paid. Indiana told him have a good night's sleep on us. JB discounters, because that's exactly what he did.